While I may not have reached the dizzying heights of millions of subscribers, I do know how to make a video or two, and I do know a little bit about equipment that goes into making said videos, particularly in a maker environment. So I want to do a series of videos looking at that equipment that goes behind the scenes. Now, none of this stuff is going to be necessary, but it's stuff that I've found helps improve my videos, whether it's making the video recording process easier or whether it's making everything look better. In this first episode, we're going to look at lighting equipment, so everything from stands and mounts to the actual lights themselves. If you're in a workshop environment, you probably have sufficient lighting because to use tools, you generally need quite a bit of lighting to use them safely. Most workshops in garages and sheds and that sort of thing are going to have overhead lighting in the form of CFLs, primarily, usually T5, T8 globe. Most fluoros aren't going to give you much control at all. You can't really change the brightness of them. Very few will support a dimmer. They just flood the whole area. Sometimes that's great, sometimes it's not. Sometimes that's going to create unflattering images in the form of shadows on faces or shadows on the workpiece, so you can't really show off what you're trying to show off. And this is where video lights can step in. This shot is being lit by both video lights and the overhead lights. Maybe it's not the best image in the world, but it isn't as bad as when I turn off the video lights. A little bit flat and a lot more shadow on my face than I'd necessarily want if I was talking to camera. When I started making videos, I bought a 3-pack of light stands and CFL globes and fixtures and softboxes, and I hated them. A big part of that reason was probably because I didn't know how to use the lights properly, but also because of these stands. These are made of incredibly lightweight, thin metal of some sort. They've all fallen apart. One of them's completely disintegrated. This one requires blue tape to hold it together. This one did have some electrical tape on it, and you can see that I can pull parts out of it. That's not supposed to come loose. So I would absolutely not recommend this style here. The key thing that you'll notice on these type of stands is that the actual mounting point, the spigot, sometimes called a baby adapter if it's 5/8 of an inch diameter, this isn't meant to be removable. On better quality stands, they are meant to be removable. So if you're thinking about getting something like this, I'd urge you not to get this type of stand because they're more frustrating than they're actually worth. Instead, recently, I've upgraded to this type of stand. It's exactly the same concept. It's a tripod type design, but it has an actual removable spigot, which I can put sideways for some lights or on top. And it has a 3/8 inch thread or 1/4 inch thread on the other side if I need to mount particular accessories to it. Now, if you're looking to buy a light stand and you type in light stand to Amazon or eBay or whatever, you're going to get a lot of types, and it can be really hard to tell which ones are good and which ones are bad. In this case, I would look for one that says it's spring or air dampened. That refers to that bouncy motion there. It's not that that's necessarily going to be great in a low-end product such as this, but it does indicate it is significantly higher quality than this light stand here. Now, the key really is this spigot that the lights will get mounted to. It just screws into the stand like so. The light will get dropped onto that and then also screwed in, and it's very secure. However, if you're in a smaller workshop, maybe a single car garage rather than a 2-car garage like I am, you might not have the room for a tripod type light stand. You just can't afford the floor space. But again, that's where the spigot is the key, not the light stand itself. So if you are in a small workshop and are trying to do videos, what are your options and why is this interesting? First off, you can DIY one of these spigots. I probably wouldn't. There used to be quite a vibrant DIY scene when it came to video equipment, particularly around lightings, but there are some key components that are just not worth it these days. The prices of good stuff has dropped considerably, so they're now affordable. The quality of very cheap stuff has gotten so much better that it's really not worth it. You can pick up a 5-pack of these spigots for about $20, so you could have them all around the workshop. And then you could build something to hold this to the wall. But again, you can actually buy that type of bracket already. Some of them even include wall anchors as a plate with, well, one of these built into it so that you can take your light, screw it onto the side. These also come in varieties that mount on the ceiling, and just like this floor-based one will have some sort of telescoping arm so you can drop the light to where you actually need it. LED panels, LED lights, any sort of LEDs have given us a more affordable form of control than, well, what was afforded to lower end equipment before. In the past, the best you could buy was really CFL fluoro globes. And the problem with controlling those is they didn't generally respond all that well to dimming. If you can't dim them, you can't control the light or the amount of light. In the case of the light that I'm using off to the side now, yep, I've got on and off, but I've also got a remote to control how much light. And I can get that down and down. And it's a very slow remote, this particular one. It goes from 10% all the way to 100. And it gives me a really fine control. Okay, that's probably a bit too bright now. It gives me a really fine control of what my image looks like, whereas on a CFL light, I just have to push it back further and further, and perhaps I couldn't quite get that control that I wanted. Another form of control that LEDs excel at is color. This particular panel is a bicolor LED panel. It has two colors, 3200 and 5600, and they swap every other row. So if I turn that on, you can see we've got a bit of a yellow color, got a bit of a white color, and then we can also mix and match. There are other LED panels that will provide a full RGB, but for maker videos, you don't really need that type of control. It can be useful, but I wouldn't necessarily pay extra for it. You're much better off standardizing on a single color, whether that's daylight 5600K or tungsten 3200K. With all that being said, you generally don't need that sort of control for maker style videos. If you do need color, you're probably not going to want to just change the color temperature, but you might want, in this case, blue. And I've just got what's called a gel, which is basically some expensive cellophane. And suddenly I've got a blue light. They come in a range of colors as well, and that's how you can gel your lights and change the color of them. Onto the actual light section of this video. Whether or not these are right for you, that's something for you to decide, but these are ones that I quite like. This is the Godox SL-60W. Weighs in at about 175 Australian dollars when on special, and it is on special fairly regularly. And that does sound like quite a lot, and it is a lot, but this compares with, or competes with, lights costing up to about $1,200. It's not as perfect as some of those, but it's a very capable light. And it is capable of a lot of modification, as well as having a lot of power. As the 60 does imply in this, it is a 60 watt light. The W is actually as a white or daylight balanced light rather than the Y version, which is yellow for tungsten. On the other hand, much cheaper end of the spectrum is the Neewer 480 LED panel. LED panels are good and they are bad. They aren't quite as modifiable, although this one does have a softbox added to it. These will go for between, or this one I picked up for $50 and it came with a battery and a power supply brick, but when they're not on special, run between $60 and $80 depending on the seller. You want to look for lights that have a CRI above 90 preferably, and a lot of the fluoros will be in the 70 to 80 range. I think this one's meant to be 96 and this is 93, though honestly can't tell the difference. They're both above 90 and they're both nice. So why would you buy one over the other? Why would you spend so much more on the Godox light over the Neewer light? Power and control is basically it. The Godox light has considerably brighter output. It has more range of accessories it works with. And while I might not use the full range of its output, it does give me more flexibility, whether that means I can go down to half power, whether it means I can have the light set back further, or whether I can have more layers of diffusion for a softer light. Anytime you add diffusion, you're cutting the amount of light that's being emitted. Whether that's a big diffuser like this or the small one here, you're still losing quite a bit of light. On the flip side, why would you go Neewer over the Godox? It's cheaper, you can get multiple lights for the same price, and sometimes that's going to create a more well-lit or well-grounded scene than a single source. These lights are smaller, I can power them off batteries, so that makes it really easy to throw them in the background or in front of a tool, on a tool. I'm even thinking about putting one on my bandsaw because it's kind of the perfect size for that sort of application. Unfortunately, as a woodworker, I can't review every single piece of equipment, lighting equipment out there. It's not really my field of expertise and I don't have the budget for it. However, if you check out DSLR video shooter on YouTube, he has quite a few comparisons of LED panels at different budgets. And there are lots and lots of reviews of the Godox light and similar lights to it out on YouTube. I'll have a link for Caleb's video on LED panels. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of what sort of lighting equipment you want to start looking into to improve your videos in a maker sense. As I said, in this video I'm not covering lighting techniques, but if there is a demand for that, I'll look into it for the next video. Thanks for watching.